Welcome to the Inspired Hygiene Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wall. I'm an RDH and founder of Inspired Hygiene. For over 20 years, we've had the unique opportunity to see what really happens inside thousands of dental hygiene ops and what it takes to create transformational change that impacts the lives of patients, practice owners, and teams. Each season, we'll focus on one powerful topic, breaking it down with practical strategies, real stories, and tools you can use right away. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired Hygiene Podcast. I am so excited, as always, to interview this very special guest, Katherine Eitel Belt. Welcome, Katherine.
Oh, I'm so glad to be with you. My first time on the podcast, I think, is it?
Yes, it is.
And
I'm very
first time
excited.
together.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. So, Katherine is the founder and CEO of LionSpeak. You can find them at lionspeak.net. And in just a moment, I'm going to have her tell us a little bit more about LionSpeak. But I have been a client many times with LionSpeak, and Katherine has helped me tremendously in our facilitation with our clients at Inspired Hygiene. She has helped me personally with my speaking and presentation skills. And I would venture to bet that if you have seen a phenomenal speaker in the dental industry, there's a very good chance that they have sat in one of Katherine's workshops or worked with her privately. So she has really had a huge impact on our industry and how we are able to teach and coach in ways that are really super impactful and really reach people to make meaningful change. And so I would love first for you to just tell everybody about LionSpeak and the direction that you're heading right now and a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Rachel. And I have loved being able to work with you and your fantastic team. And the work that you're doing in the industry is so well respected and so powerful. So it's great to be with you. My short story of my journey here is that I started in dentistry as a chairside dental assistant. Had a really, really great mentor in that first job. I often tell the story of him really having a courageous conversation with me and lifting me up to a level of excellence that was pretty outstanding. 45 years ago. And then that eventually, I moved up front and was an administrator for several years, and then eventually found my way to coaching. And for several decades was a full practice management consultant. And so I understand the inner workings of a dental business from all those angles. But there was a piece of that I loved more than anything. And it was the communications coaching, helping dental professionals to speak and communicate at a higher level with their patients, with each other, and as you referred to speak better from the stage or in trainings, that kind of thing. In the last 10 years, we have narrowed our focus to communications only, and in the last couple of years, the main push of our work has been around leadership communication for managers, for owners, and for team leads. And we really are enjoying that work. And it feels like we're living in a society where there's almost an epidemic of people with an inability to create change or to have a difference of opinion or perspective, and to do so in a respectful and dignified way. And so I feel like it's good work. It's almost life skills that we're teaching really
Yes.
at the core, because you don't get better in the dental practice as a dental professional, and not get better at home or with your neighbors or at your church or whatever. And so for me, it's just this beautiful marriage of being able to create a life of choice and of well-held boundaries and the ability to uplift people as you're doing that.
Mhm.
So that's really
Yeah.
it's really the work
And
we're doing.
and you do that through some online coaching and training, but also your team calibration retreats are really so powerful and make such an incredible difference for the teams that you work with. So, I would encourage everyone to really take a look at the website and what you're doing with those. It's a great way to just bring your team, like okay, let's kind of reset on our
Mhm.
core values, our communication style, like who are we?
Yeah.
And be able to move forward through that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
I
one of the
love
most
that.
fun things we do. Those team calibration treats are just that. They are calibrating the team to the owner's future, to the owner's vision and mission, and to their values and cultural agreements or
Mhm,
team
mhm.
agreements. And, we help the owner to issue an invitation, which is a really powerful piece of what we do. We don't want to build more victims. We want to build
Yeah.
more empowered people that are living at
Yes.
choice. And so it's incumbent upon an owner or top level management to make sure that everyone who works at an organization is really clear what they're being invited into, what level of
Mhm,
excellence, what level of patient care, what level of diagnostic protocols, what level of team cooperation and team spirit, what
mhm,
level, all of those things. So if the owner gets really clear about that and issues not a demand, but an
mhm.
invitation,
Yeah.
then when people continue to come to work, they're essentially saying, I choose this. I choose this work. I
Mhm,
choose the push and the growth and the
mhm,
education, and so those are much more empowered people who are raising their hand and saying, I sign up for this. I sign up for
mhm,
this. I sign up for it not necessarily always being easy, and I sign up for the
mhm,
fact that there will be change and growth expected of me, and I align with that. And so those
mhm.
retreats are a lot about helping that to occur, and facilitating the conversation around it from both sides, and it's a powerful thing.
And I mean, there's always a benefit to that, and I wonder if you've observed over the last 5 or 6 years just a accelerated intensity of the need for that kind of work because of so many factors with regards to just how we communicate in society, which you referred to, briefly about, like, our these polarized, communication and not being able to have a difference of opinion and communicate, respectfully. That is certainly a big thing that we all can need to continue to work on. But also, there's been so many shifts in dental teams over the last few years. And a lot of these teams, what we see is they've assembled new team members. Maybe some long standing team members have moved on and just because they've moved on, retired, whatever that is, their legacy and their philosophy that they carried often stays in the practice. It leaves a watermark on the practice whether they know it or not. And oftentimes communication to kind of clear that and say that we honor that, we respect that, and we're moving in this direction is super powerful. And then just really taking all these individuals that, have come together over these last few years in different roles and just get everybody calibrated on the same page is, man, that is so powerful.
It really is. We've seen it make massive change
Yeah.
and almost immediate change,
Yes.
for the better. And what I love about it, Rachel, more than anything else, is I could get on a soapbox about how important it is to help people realize they've had the ruby slippers on all along. They could have the career they want. They can have it any way they want. There's tons of I mean, it's an employee's market right now.
Yeah.
Employees can work anywhere under any conditions they want right now, and employers can have it any way they want. They if they wanna start at 7 o'clock in the morning and be done at 4, if they wanna work on Saturdays, if they wanna never do an endo, a molar endo in their life or see a kid under 12, and, like, we can have it any way we want.
Mhm.
And so we live in this beautiful country that gives us the ability to do that. But for the time that someone says, I choose not to start my own business or to go to dental school, I choose to work for someone else,
Yes.
then I just want to make us feel empowered about that choice and to say, what if we didn't have to do? I mean, we teach a lot of managers leadership skills and we tell them
Mm,
we want you to get you have to out of your vocabulary.
mm, mhm,
It demeans people, and it also
mhm.
suggests that we're treating them as if They don't have a brain and they're not an adult professional. So
Yeah.
much better to say, I'm inviting you. I want to clear up what the invitation is. Here are the choices that are on the table. These are where we're going. We've already decided these are the standards we will meet. These are the
Mhm.
protocols we put in place. And we're not really asking you it for permission. We're not asking for permission. And we're not even justifying it, right? What we're doing is saying we've decided, our ownership has decided this is where we're
Mhm.
going, and this is the kind of practice that we want to be and become. And so we really want you. And we really are inviting you into this, but it's your choice.
Yeah.
And we are respecting that you have every right to make that choice. And we just want to make sure that you make the choice. It's sort of like talking to patients. We want to make sure you make that choice based on fully disclosed and really clear information. And so you make
Mhm.
the best for you. And the
Yeah.
same is true for our employees. And it's so empowering to say, you have choice. There are no victims in this room. And so,
Yeah.
but sometimes we've gotten comfortable sitting in um a place where we say, "Oh, these, darn millennial employees, they're so entitled," and
Mhm.
the employer adopts this victim, like, you can't find good people anymore, and nobody has a strong work ethic, and they become the victim.
Mm.
And the reverse is also true. There are employees who say, "Oh, my mean manager," or, "They hired Rachel Wall, and now we have to do the."
Yeah.
And so it's easy to slip in our society
Yeah.
really supports us remaining in these victim roles. And so the retreat is really about how do we help all people on all sides of the equation, step out of that victim mentality and into a much more empowered personal space, make
Mhm.
the best decisions, and then own those decisions.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we're doing with patients? Aren't we just trying to give them clear choices based on really solid, um, clear information, and then respect the choice that they make?
Yes, absolutely. And we're inviting them to accept it. And if they choose not to accept it,
Yeah,
then there may not be a fit there, even with
yeah,
that
and we're
patient
honoring that.
relationship.
I mean, how
We're
cool,
honoring that. Mhm.
as
Yes.
I heard a definition and of leadership, it's the best definition I've ever heard. And the statement was, in any situation, the person who will emerge the leader will be the one who can articulate the reality of a situation. So think of it from, um, there's a second half to this, but in that first half, think of it from a patient communication perspective. If you are going to emerge the leader from this conversation, you will have articulated to the patient just the facts, the
Mhm.
reality of the situation, right? Same for an employer. And someone is late to work, or someone doesn't follow the system, or whatever. If the person who will emerge the leader will be able to just reveal the reality of the situation, and then the
Mhm.
second half is without any judgment, without any blame, and without fear,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So that means from the patient perspective, we have no blame for them, for any past hygienist or clinician. We have no, judgment around what they end up deciding to do. Stay with our practice, don't do the treatment, don't, whatever. And we aren't coming from fear, our own fear that, "Oh, what if they don't say yes?" Or "What if they do?" Or "What if they have an objection?" So, from a leadership perspective, it's the same. If we just say, "Look, this is what we've decided we're going to do. These are the protocols with our patient. These are the things we're going to do. And we're inviting you to join us, and we hope you're going to say yes. We've got our fingers and toes crossed. You're going to say yes. But whether you do or you don't is up to you, and
Mhm.
we will accept and honor whatever you choose. If you choose to stay here and work with us, then it shouldn't be a surprise to you that we are going to push you. We are going to expect, we are going to, grow you and invest in you.
Yep.
And when you can give that to someone, without blame, without fear, and without judgment about what they choose, then everyone is free. Everyone
Yeah.
is free. And I just love that
Yeah.
perspective. So
I do
huge.
too. I do
Mhm.
too, and I've already learned like a huge I always learn when I talk to you, and I've learned something that the way that we at Inspired Hygiene approach our teams and the hygienists in particular is we have a very structured approach of how they go through some education before the coach ever shows up in the practice. So they have time to process the clinical philosophy and the science behind what we're teaching so that
I
they
love
have the opportunity to see, hey, this is based on valid science. It's not some, willy-nilly like protocol that Inspired Hygiene made up. But I think the piece that we can do even better is that invitation piece, and this is really great advice for leaders, practice leaders who are considering bringing in any type of coach into their practice or are considering, really recommitting to their core values and their
Yeah.
standards is to use that invitation language
Yeah.
and just trust that if the person opts out, right? The invitation is not, you don't have to accept it and you can just do things the way that you want and stay here. That's
No.
not that's
No.
not the invitation. The
No.
invitation is to like, hey, we're going somewhere really amazing and we want you to get on board. And this is very consistent with the leadership conversations I've had with other experts in this season of the podcast. So I love when everything is just, when you hear it 4 times in a slightly different way, that means it's true. And these are
It's true,
experiences.
and that it's right what you need.
Yeah.
We teach a hierarchy of 3 leadership conversations, and it's a hierarchy. So, the conversations are at the top is the invitation conversation, and once people say yes to that, then it immediately, initiates a series of the second conversation, which are coaching conversations. Not supervisory, but coaching. Very, as you know, very different skills to be a good
Yeah.
coach. So we help them become an internal coach. They might not do the teaching, but they're going to be the quarterback for getting this person the resources that they need, the training, the whatever it is that they need to begin to um, really deliver on this invitation, this acceptance of the invitation, right? So someone could say, "Yes, I'm in. I'm interested in joining that kind of philosophy," but not necessarily know yet how to do it, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure you see that a lot in your
Yeah.
program. They thought, "Okay, I get this and I'm interested, but I don't really yet know how to do it." And so that coaching, that middle piece is really important. And then we have a third conversation that we call the courageous conversation, which is more of a confrontational, you have to make a decision, or we have to find a way to get better results, right? We
Mhm.
we really
Mhm.
are still about results. And so sometimes, but
Mhm.
I contend that if you get the invitation and the coaching conversations right, you'll have fewer of these
Yes.
courageous conversations, and they will go better when you do have them. They'll
Yeah.
be easy. And so that hierarchy, as a matter of fact, I'll include for your listeners, we have a flow chart. So if you get a yes to the invitation, then you come down, and then if that's working or not working, where do you go? But if you get a no, then where do you go? So it's kind of
That's
a flow
fantastic.
chart of, if you get a yes or a no at any of these levels, where are you? And how do you choose what conversation you should be currently having? And I want to say one other thing. We don't just recommend our clients have this invitation conversation one and done. Our recommendation is you have it as a starting point, and then you have it a minimum of once a year, every
Mhm.
year after that, because you will add new people. Even your longstanding people will need a reminder what they have signed up for.
Mm.
And I think it's inspiring from most owners, to their team to say, "We're still on track. We're still excited about what we're building. I wanna remind us that this is the why behind what we're building, and this is why our work matters." And
Mm.
so at a minimum of once a year, we recommend offsite. It's a bit of a team celebration day, but it is also, the big part of it is realigning or realigning everybody
Mm.
on the team with who we are and where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I agree with you. That's super powerful. Okay, so what we encounter is, I say there are like three types of hygienists that are in the practices that we coach. Or I would say, let me rephrase that. Three mindsets
Mm,
that we typically encounter. One is the hygienist that's like, I'm open. Like, I've been waiting for this. I'm ready to go. I'm a little nervous, which is
mhm,
normal because I don't know everything to expect, but I'm excited about it. Um, the other end of the spectrum is, I don't want anything to change. I don't see why we need this. Things are fine. We can improve these things on our own, even though maybe they have attempted that over years, right? And sits there with, the arms crossed kind of posture during the workshop and that kind of thing. And then there are a lot of folks that are in between, which is, I say they're reluctant. They're not resistant, but they're reluctant. And usually it's because they just have questions. They
Right.
they aren't clear, right, of what is being asked of them. And they're just not sure, like, where are we going with this? Where, how's this gonna go and how do I fit in with this? So what would you say are, why do individuals accept a change in um their communication, or the way that their workflow or how they're diagnosing, how what is it that gets them to accept those changes and be willing to apply that?
Well, I'll start by talking about why they don't. So
Okay.
the reason people don't is change is hard. Our
Yes.
brains are actually wired to prevent change. It doesn't want change. It wants to, if we are comfortable doing it the way we are doing it, living where we live, our operatory is set up a certain way. We come in the same door every morning. We go out the same door every night. Like, we get into a routine in our life and on our work, and our brain says, "Okay, we're good here. We're
Mhm.
safe here. We understand it. There's no big surprises. There's nothing we have to think really hard about anymore. We don't have to think about things really hard." And meaning our brain doesn't have to expend any calories to think, "Well, what was I supposed to say there?" Or "What did I commit to doing differently?" So it wants our brain wants to reserve calories for big events, and it will always take the easiest route, which is what we already know and what we're comfortable with. So to get us to move from that, we actually have to trick the brain. We have to
Mm.
trick it because it won't go easily on its own. As a matter of fact, I just read a statistic that says to create a new, permanent neural pathway in the brain, meaning I always think about, my husband has this generational, cabin up near Tahoe that we go to in the summers, and, it's by a little alpine lake, and it's, the Pacific Crest Trail, which is the big trail that goes from Mexico to Canada. A lot of people do that. It goes right behind our cabin and then right up around this lake, and so thousands of people every year walk that trail around this lake, and so we go almost every morning and walk on that path. And so because so many people have walked it for so many years, it's there are no rocks on it, like, there's no branches, it's very well worn, and that is what happens in our brain when we keep doing and thinking the same thing. We've got this well-worn neural pathway. But if Tom and I want to go, it's usually not me, but if he wants to go do a cold plunge into the alpine lake, I'm usually an observer. But if he wants to do that, he'll have to bushwhack through the bushes to get down
Yes.
to do that. But if he kept doing it every single day, so the first trek's gonna be hard. He's gonna have to step over rocks, trip over rocks, cut the branches. Um, but if he kept doing it, eventually, that becomes a new well-worn path. So the statistic I read is that to make a habit, that well-worn path we have, into a new one, 2 to 3 months of repetition.
Yep.
2 to 3 months of repetition. So if we say it to a patient one way for 10 years, we start our appointments one way for 10 years. We've got a well-worn path. Now we are asking them to start that appointment a little differently or say
Mhm.
something a little differently, preface it. Now we're saying, "Oh, cut through, bushwhack. Now you gotta remove the boulders. Now you're gonna have to burn some more calories in the brain to go down here," and your brain's gonna say, "Ooh, this is dangerous. This is harder. Why are we doing this?" And so it's not we really do have to have a big motivation to want to do that. So I just wanted to say change is hard. That's why we
Yes.
don't fall into it, and it takes some time of repetition. Having said all of that, how people do make it happen, one thing is they get really clear on their own personal why. And I know there's been a lot of things talked about this idea of the why behind something.
Mhm.
But what I mean is, um, we're all kind of selfish beings, humans. We do things for our own reasons. If we're
Mhm.
really gonna do them
Mhm.
wholeheartedly, and we're gonna do them when no one's looking and no one's testing us, we're gonna do those things for our own reasons. And so helping someone, well, first of all, if it's you as an individual, you asking yourself, "Is there something that if I could figure out a way to get it, I really want?" So for some people, that's a bigger income. For some people, it is more time off. For others, it might be higher levels of respect from my coworkers or my doctors or my patients. Um, it may be that people want to get somebody off their back
Mhm.
and they just want the peace of not having to be asked about things anymore.
Mhm.
Some people want more personal pride in their results. There's a million reasons why we might take on change, but I find that the people who get clear on their reason or reasons do better. They get there quicker, they get
Mhm.
the path cut quicker. So I would say if you're an individual, try to ask yourself, like, is there something that I would be willing to do some different things for, or at least experiment with those things to get that? Because otherwise you're a victim. You're saying, well, I can't have more money because of my mean boss, or I can't, the industry won't, allow for it, or whatever it
Mhm.
is. You make
Insurance won't pay for it or, like,
Yeah,
all these
right.
things that come up for
Mhm.
us. Yes.
Yeah, and so, that's for me a place of bondage when you think that other
Yes.
circumstances or other people have control over your experience of something, and so I wanna be in a place of freedom. My life's been much better when I've decided that that's where I'm gonna think from, that's where I'm gonna make decisions from, is that it's up to me to decide my results and my, impact and my, experience of something, my level of happiness and satisfaction. So, I would say just don't forget you have agency, you have choice,
Mhm.
no one here is a victim. If you are, in a position where you are trying to help other people make change, then I think it's important to help them find the why, help them
Mhm.
find the reasons they would make change. So I think that's a huge piece of it. The second thing I would say is that when we make change complicated, people tend to not
Mhm.
do it. So starting small steps, we can only manage a couple of priorities at a time. So being very specific and very thoughtful about what will we change at any given time, what will we focus on, so we don't dilute that focus, we get
Mhm.
that repetition on that thing done before we move on to the next. So I think, making sure that we're not changing too much, too soon,
Yeah.
too complicated is a really important piece of it. Mhm.
Yes. And that is very much in line with how we structure, our coaching and the education, and it's I mean, you have had an extraordinary influence on that over the years. I mean, I've learned that from you over the years. It's like you don't come in and just like with the fire hose and just blast everybody and expect them to change everything at once
Mhm.
because it just doesn't work.
That's
So, that this is fascinating to me because in dentistry as well, we also have that muscle memory. So there's like a
Yes.
physical there's physical paths. There's not only mental, like, mindset thinking
Mhm.
paths the way we do things, but there are literally physical ways that we do things every day. We sit the patient down, and then we turn this way, and then when the doctor comes in, we go to this part of the operatory, and getting a different result with the hygiene to doctor handoff typically requires them maybe being positioned in a different place in the
Yes.
operatory or saying something different. Or we even talk about the doctor comes in and asks the patient the same question, and then they talk for 10 minutes about sports or whatever. And I bring that up a lot is, okay, how can they help you change that
Yes.
pattern of communication so that everyone can get what they want.
You know
And
what that reminds
yeah.
me of, Rachel, is the first time that Tom and I traveled to the UK, where they drove on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
We didn't rent a car in London, but when I had actually some work, some trainings that I was doing in
Yes.
some smaller towns outside, and so we rented a car. And so Tom is a really good driver, and before we left, he literally got online and took a class in how to what did an American driver need to know to drive well in the UK? Because everything, the mirror is on our right, but
Yeah.
when you're in the rear view mirror is on the left, you got to look left, you know? And so there's so many things that are
Wow.
different. The shifter, they're all manual shift. So the shifter's on the left, not on the right. And so it is different. But what made me think of this was he said to me after he took the course, you have one, because I wasn't going to drive. He said, you have one job as the passenger. And I said, what's that? He said, the course said, if you have a passenger, um, that most of the accidents don't happen the first day you drive because you're
Mm.
hyper aware.
Mhm.
What most of the accidents happen day 2, 3, or 4 when you've now gone, okay, I'm still alive. We haven't had a wreck. And then you revert to that muscle memory you were describing of, 30 years of driving another way, turning into a different lane when you pull out of a parking lot
Yes.
is total muscle memory. And he said,
Yes.
so they said, you have one job, and that is as I come out of a parking lot or into a turn lane, is keep left, stay left, because I'm going to want to look right and be right. And,
Mhm.
and so I think what you're alluding to is what they were alluding to is in the beginning, training new muscle memory, you need a coach or a partner or a team
Yeah.
around you that is aiding and saying, let's start here instead of there. Let's look left instead of right. So it's a good example of in anything we do repetitively and have done most of our I mean, some of the people we work with have been doing this for decades, and
Oh,
it's
yes.
going to be a challenge. Yeah. Mhm.
It is. And what I found is the longer that they've been doing it that way, which makes sense, it might take more than one,
Oh,
on-site coaching visit to really make that shift. And they'll say, okay, so what they're doing first is they're kind of changing their communication first. And then
mm,
they've got to shift their mindset to like, okay, now it's time that I'm actually recommending a different treatment. So that doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes teams have reached a point where even if they've been in the practice for a long time, they're tired of the way they've been doing things because they're not
yeah.
getting the results that they want. They see like,
Well, back to our first, discussion point of once they hit that "I want this,"
yes.
then it's actually a really short curve.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Once
Mhm.
they get that I want this, then they can implement things much faster.
Much better.
But we really try to meet them where they are and be patient with them in that
Yeah.
sense and help their leaders see like, hey, they need some time to really implement and absorb this. And some teams say, like, give it to me, I'm gonna implement all this at once, and they do it. And some were like, hey, start this with 2 patients in the morning and 2 patients in the afternoon, right? And
Right.
just get
Right.
get used to that
Mhm.
and see like, oh, that's actually easier and the patients don't
Sure.
have as many questions because I'm explaining it this way. So,
Y
okay,
Yeah.
so you shared in our prep time that there were 3 ways that individuals can really approach shifting their mindset. So can you share those with us?
Yeah, we, like you, feel that mindset is the foundation. It's the floor
Yes.
of the building. Like that,
Yes.
that is a non-negotiable for us. So people can go anywhere they want in our leadership academy and start if they want to start on upgrading their meetings. They can start there if they want to get courageous conversations and conflict happen. They can start there. But what they can't bypass is first, everything rests on a strong emotional leadership mindset. And leadership, communication, growing your career, all of that is an inside out job. It's inside out. So in other words, we can't take someone to a place we've never been. So if we are in fear, if we are in judgment, if we are in resistance, we're not going to take someone else beyond that. And so it
Mm,
matters where we are before we
mhm.
speak into anything. So there are 3 ways, and I would just say that this is only relevant if you have decided you want something different. whatever that is. So I would just say, if you've decided you would like to advance your career, expand your career, you would like your people to do something different, you would like to make more money, you would like a bigger impact on your patients or your industry, then all of those reasons could qualify for thinking about these mindset shifts. They're not really dependent on the other, but they do dovetail together. So the first one is, always we say to leaders, it's empowering to ask yourself, what piece of the current situation or breakdown or dysfunction or whatever belongs to me?
Mm.
It What we're saying is, the short version is, how do we take ownership of where we are
Mhm.
and not defer that to anyone else? In other words, how do we step out of the victim role and own our decisions? And so if you are an employee, a hygienist, let's say, or anybody on the team who has been, um, delivered this invitation to do things differently and step into a new game, you want to say, "Okay, so I have a choice. I don't have to." I mean, really, I don't have to. If I choose to continue to work here, I may have to, but I don't have to do that. I am at choice. No one's forcing me. So I feel empowered and I feel clear that I'm no victim of anyone. I'm going to make my choice. And I think you will decide if you're going to listen to the rationale, if you're going to consider the impact of that. Just take ownership of it. It's a very freeing place to do business from and to steer a career from. So first is taking ownership or taking responsibility for, where the results that you're getting, and or that maybe more importantly that you're not getting, to own
Okay.
it. The second is, and it's one of my favorites, is what we call challenging your BS.
Mm.
And what that stands for is belief structures. But I always teasingly say it's not that different than what you thought that BS probably meant. It's about the same, because the point is that we all have beliefs about everything. And we are forming those beliefs from things we've been told, from things we've experienced, from things that we've read, um, and from our own personalities, how we interpret things. So, in other words, we're kind of making it all up for ourselves. And that's why people have different reactions to things. Like, if in audiences, I'll say, when we're teaching this, I'll say, um, just, I'm going to throw some words out and just see if a picture comes into your mind and you have certain beliefs around these words. So I'll say things like baby boomer or Democrat or Republican or millennial. I'll say young associate doctor, um, veteran clinician, um, professors. I just have this whole bunch of words that I dump in, and then I say, did anybody feel yourself when you heard the word, attach it to some belief around that thing, around that term? And almost everyone in the audience will say yes. And I'll say, so how many of you have ever heard a millennial described, or think of millennials now as being, in general, entitled, lazy, always have to have a trophy, whether they did the work or not, kind of that kind of talk? And we've all heard it. And the truth is, there are some people like that. But I've worked with some baby boomers that have been like that. I've worked with millennials that have been fantastic. And so the truth is, we have adopted beliefs about circumstances, about information, about tasks, about people that we believe are the truth. And what's really happening is it's our truth. It's not the truth. And so notice that this tool doesn't say change your beliefs. That's not what I said.
Mhm.
What I said was get in the habit of challenging your current beliefs. Here's how I think about it. We have the beliefs we have based on what we've learned and read and heard and experienced, maybe. And so I think of it as walking down an alleyway with these big, like, tall brick walls, and they form what we can see as possible. So we've reached these decisions about what we believe is true or false, good or bad, right or wrong, healthy or not healthy. Um, and we've created this alleyway where we see only this set of possibilities. So the way I think about it is that there may be other possibilities on the other side of these walls, but we will never see them until the walls come down enough that we can peer over the side and say, "Oh, there's another way to look at that. I never thought, or there's a tool I hadn't realized was available to me. I didn't realize that." Or like you said, "Oh, that patient didn't really respond the way I had anticipated they might respond. They actually said yes much quicker. That's interesting to me. New possibility, right?" And so what I'm suggesting is we poke holes in these walls and the way and bring them down a little bit so that we get to at least look at what else might be possible for us. And the way we do that is we ask ourselves really good questions. It's been said that the quality of our answers and results is dependent on the quality of the questions we're asking. And so, again, I'd love to share a list of questions we've developed. We call them powerful questions. And I think they are really powerful questions to begin to bring those walls down just to at least have access to see other possibilities. And I think it helps to turn our limiting beliefs into, I mean, if you think about it, the worst that will happen if you get good at this skill, if you get good at questioning and challenging your current beliefs, the worst that will happen is you will challenge them and then you will decide you still believe the same thing. There is no downside to it, but there is a big downside to never challenging because other people who do will see those possibilities, they will access them, and you will think they're lucky, and they
Yeah.
aren't lucky. They were good at saying, so the questions are things like, "Is that the only way I could think about this? Is there some information I maybe haven't been exposed to that might
Mm.
change my perspective? Is there someone else who is doing the thing I think is impossible without any ethical or moral breach for me, but they're successful at it? Who are they? How do I meet them? How do I take them to lunch and pick their brain?" Right? Is there a hygienist that does the things in 1 hour that I think are impossible to do in 1 hour?
Mhm.
If they exist, then how do I pick their brain? And maybe they would let me shadow them for a morning. Or, you know, people who challenge their beliefs are willing to say, is there another way of looking at this? Or is there a question I haven't asked? Or is there somebody who's already been successful? Or they're asking good questions that are poking holes in those walls and bringing them down and letting us peer over. So that's our second one. Get good
Okay.
at challenging your beliefs. And then the third one is making your decisions. What are you going to commit to and what are you not going to commit to? What are you going to try or not try? Um, so making your decisions and having your most important conversations from an emotional platform or an emotional state that is strong. So we call that state the flow state. And most of us have had some experience with flow state in life. Many of us experienced it walking down the aisle to the love of our life, or we experienced it holding our newborn baby and looking into their face for the very first time, or walking across the stage to receive a diploma we worked really hard for, or finally finding the fabulous employee we've been looking for a year, or whatever it is. We've had moments in our life where things are going really well and we feel that flow state. But we also, all of us, if we're honest, we've had what we would call the mud. So if that's like represented in our mind, the metaphor of a river as flow state, then the muddy banks on either side are the opposite. They are the times in life when we're stuck and it's mucky and it's tough and we're maybe moving, but it's pretty sluggish and it's pretty hard. And we've all had those times too, where we weren't working in the right place, in the right
Mhm.
culture. We got fired or we took a job and in 2 weeks we knew it was not for us, or whatever that state is. So I just contend that if we get good at not having conversations with patients or coworkers or bosses or employees, unless we have gotten ourselves into a flow state, in flow state, we feel positive emotion. We feel optimistic. We feel curious. We feel expansion. We feel non-judgment. We feel excited and confident. Um, we feel positive, all those emotions, those positive emotions. We feel loved and lovable and accepted, successful. All of that is a flow state. So the emotions in the mud are things like fear and discouragement, and things feel hard. Things feel we feel judged. We feel um, a lack of confidence, insecurity. We feel frustrated, things like that. And so you can imagine
Mhm.
you're going to have a conversation with a patient or with your employee, and you're over here in high levels of frustration or fear that if you have this conversation, they're going to quit and you won't be able to replace them. If you're in that mud, that conversation will be different than if you first recognized you were in that state, got yourself over into a more positive mindset, and then you made the decision or had the conversation. So I find that learners are the same way. If they decide I'm going to go into this training, but I'm going to make sure I'm in a flow state and I'm going to make sure I'm challenging my current beliefs so that I give it the chance it deserves, I can always say no. I'm at
Mhm.
choice. I take full responsibility for my own choices. No one's controlling that for me. But I'm going to come into it ready to challenge my current beliefs and open up the expansion of possibility for me. And I'm going to listen to this new information from the flow state rather than from the mud. Because from the mud, it's going to sound and be received differently than I will receive it from a flow state. And so those things for me really help someone um, make change and more positively and more quickly than when they're not in those states and having done that work.
And there are ways that leaders can set up environments that are more conducive to a flow state. We talked about this a bit um, in a previous leadership conversation in one of the episodes about, how does the leader show up if something is, somebody calls out sick at the last time and the leader's like, this always happens, I can't believe this, instead saying, hey, how can we make this work, how can we work together? So there are ways that you can create an environment as a leader that's going to be more likely that your team is going to be in flow state more often. We're all human,
Yep.
right? But we're all human, but there are ways, in how we communicate together and support one another, and just what the overall tone is, of the environment.
I mean,
Um,
people are watching what we do, not what we
yes.
say. It's
Yeah.
just like saying to your teenage driver, "Don't text while you drive." Well, that's all good until the minute they see you do it, and
Yes.
then all bets are off. So the same
Yes.
is true here. I always ask audiences, "Who wants to work on this team?" Raise your hand in a minute if you wanna work on a team that is filled with people who have these characteristics. They're problem solvers, they're critical thinkers on their own, they are great team players, they've got their team members' backs, they are positive and optimistic. They are accountable for their own actions, for the quality of their own relationships, for their careers, and for their inevitable mistakes. Who wants to work on that team? And, the whole audience raises their hand, and I
Yeah.
say, let me raise both my hands. That's the team I want to work on. And so I say to leaders, if that's the team you want to work on, we go first. We show
Yes.
up accountable. We show up optimistic. We show up positive in the face of negativity. We show up, critically thinking and problem solving. You've got to go first. You have to demonstrate at every turn. What does this look like? I've had clients say to me, why do I have to be their parent? Why didn't their parent teach them this? Why do I have to be their? And I say, well, maybe we shouldn't have to be, but we are. Like, people come from, I mean, it's rare that people have worked for extraordinary leaders. They're not on every corner. And so you might be the very first extraordinary leader they've ever worked for, and it's up to us to set the tone of that. So,
Yeah.
leaders have to go first with this. They have to be open to change. They have to be challenging their own limiting beliefs. And I see it from both sides. I've had lots of people in the industry lately in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years, a lot of versions of this conversation. I wanna have these conversations, Catherine. I want to set these standards. I want to give this level of education to my people and invest in them, but I'm afraid. And when I say,
Mm.
"Well, what are you afraid of?" They'll say, "Well, I'm afraid that if I hold my people to this level of accountability and this level of excellence, they're just gonna if it doesn't go well, they're gonna quit, and I'll be 6 months trying to replace them, and I'm not sure my business can survive it." And, I say, well, that assumes there's only 2 options. There's the option of you have the conversation and risk it not going well and the business consequence of that, or you don't have the conversation and you stay where you are and there's a business consequence for that.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm recommending or suggesting that there might be a third option where you don't have to choose. You can set a standard, you can hold a boundary, you can raise your I think most people need to raise their standards. I think we've been on a little bit of a slide of
For sure.
standards since COVID. And so I would
Mhm.
like to see people raise their standards higher than they are and find a way to invite their people to come and align with those standards in a way that lifts their people up and actually strengthens the relationship rather than tear it down. And
Yeah.
I just know that all that is learning the skills to do it. That's it.
Mhm. So to wrap, there is a it is not possible to pull mindset and leadership apart from one another. They are intertwined, and it's very difficult for a leader to be effective if they're not challenging their mindsets, and are they coming from a place of judgment and fear and insecurity, right? And the same with a team member. It's hard for them to be a leader within the team, and it's hard for them to shift their mindset if they're not led by an individual that's willing to really bring them along and kind of help them see the why and
Yeah.
really lead by example. So this was a fantastic conversation. um Thank you. This will be very enlightening for teams that are embarking on any type of
Yeah.
uh, shift, elevating their standards, resetting the core values and the vision of the practice. This will be very, very useful for everyone. So, Catherine, thank you so much. You mentioned a couple resources, so we'll
Mhm.
make sure we have a link to those in the show notes. And again, you are the founder and owner of LionSpeak.net. So I encourage
Yes.
everybody to go check out what they offer. These team calibration retreats are fantastic. And Catherine, you're just always so enlightening and such a joy. So thank you for being with us.
You're welcome, you're welcome. I'd love to also mention that I have a book coming out later this year, and so if
Okay.
anyone's interested, it's called Lead Yourself, Lead Your Team, and
Oh,
I'm really proud of it, really excited about it, and, I don't have a pub date yet, but we're anticipating fall, and we may be in pre-sales here within a month or 2, so, we'll put a link to that if we have it by the time this
yes.
airs. If not, if you sign up for our free weekly blog called the Monday Morning Stretch, you'll be on the announcement list, so that would be an easy way to get the announcement for the pre-sales, so, yeah, I think it's gonna
Wonderful.
be a great resource for teams.
Okay. Well, we will have to have another conversation once the book is out. So
Yes, I would
let's
love that.
plan on that. Awesome. Thanks,
Right.
everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Inspired Hygiene Podcast. We hope you got a ton of value and ideas and action steps that you can implement right away. If we can help you in any way to optimize your hygiene department, head on over to inspiredhygiene.com to book a discovery meeting with us. As always, stay inspired.